Good morning from me as well. Uh, it's really an amazing event, and my great congratulations to everybody who has been contributing to making this a reality. I would like to say a big thanks to my panel members for the willingness to take the stage and share their own journeys and their own experiences. And I will go straight into it, given time restrictions. It's going to be quite interesting for me personally because at some point we need to close it because I need to run to another panel in another location. So you can be sure that we will cover everything in the next 35, 40 minutes. I am one of those people that I know in this room, we have a shared view of this, that we no longer need to be convincing the world that Cyprus is a tech hub. We are a tech hub. And not only we're a tech hub, but I'm always quite proud when I hear people looking at us from outside in to actually also put words around the tech hub as a buzzing tech hub, an emerging tech hub, an exciting tech hub, a high potential tech hub. So the reality is that not only we are recognized to a lot of people that we are a tech hub, also it's recognized that we have already formed an ecosystem. For sure we need to enhance that ecosystem, but we've heard it on the stage before from Andreas that there's also a community and there's a strong voice and there's already a good collaboration between the community. So Cyprus has formed a vision a few years back which we call Vision 2035, and one of the fundamental pillars for that vision is for Cyprus to be a tech hub. The vision is to be one of the best countries in the world to live, to work, and to do business in. It was a vision developed when Konstantinos Petridis was the relevant minister, the Minister of Finance. And let me introduce our panelists here. We have here with us Mary, who was pivotal at the time when Ireland transformed its own economy from a different model to a model that enabled the emergence of Ireland into a richer country, but a tech hub as well in its own right. And you were there with many different roles, including being. Okay, so you were deputy prime minister at the time. You were in the room. You were part of the decision making of actually transforming Ireland. That would be an interesting story for us to tap into. Konstantinos Petridis, very well known in this room. I know that most of us refer to you as the Minister of Finance as your last post, but I would like to also remind everybody you were also the deputy minister responsible for reforming government in very difficult circumstances, and also a Minister of Interior. So you were also a pivotal person in the introduction of strategies and of the kickoff of what we have today here. And Nikolai comes in from a perspective of okay. So the person I will be referring to as Nikolai is actually Kostas, but covering the perspective of an investor, covering the perspective of a person who chooses to place funds in Cyprus, place trust on Cyprus, and has expectations and personal dreams. So this is the story we're going to be sharing from different perspectives. So let me go straight to you, Mary. I mean, in a few minutes we cannot do justice to it, but just give some perspective to the people in this room about the story of Ireland, and then we'll talk about some learnings and how that can be used from Cyprus.
Well, basically Ireland has transformed itself from being a... Hello? Basically, Ireland has transformed itself from being an agriculturally based economy. In 1973, when we entered the European Union, 25% of our economy was agriculture. Today, it's 1.5%. So we've become very much a technology and services country. How did that happen? It happened for a number of reasons. One, low corporate tax has made Ireland very attractive for foreign direct investment. We have 1,800 companies in Ireland. They employ directly 300,000 people and indirectly 240,000 people. So of those that work in Ireland, 2.5 million people in Ireland are at work. That's half the population, which is 5 million. About 400,000 work in the public sector. And of the balance, over 20% work in foreign companies, either directly or indirectly. 7% of them work in technology companies. The technology companies contribute 21% of our corporate tax, 12% of our payroll, etc. How did that all happen? It happened through a number of reinforcing factors. One, the quality of education. Secondly, our capacity to constantly embrace transformation. In order to succeed, countries have to keep reinventing themselves. You cannot stand still. You cannot become complacent. Our education system has been rated third in the among 38 countries in the OECD for the quality of its education to meet the needs of industry. And what does that mean? It means in our universities, we have a high percentage of students per 1,000 people. We have the highest number of students in Ireland studying science, engineering, and mathematics and technology. And that makes us very suitable, obviously, for tech and other industries that require high-powered talent. We are 17% of our workforce comes from outside Ireland. We've made Ireland very attractive to bring in people, and I think we compare very well with Cyprus. People like living in Ireland. They like the quality of life in Ireland. So the three ingredients, I would say: tax, track record, government policy, no matter who's in government, has never changed. When the investors come, they're given a guarantee, and that's never been changed. Consistency of government policy, access to government for our investors, and the speedy response of government to the needs of investors. And a lot of our investors sponsor and work with the universities to make sure that we have tailored programs to meet their talent requirements. So, for example, we have a new immersive software engineering program in one of our universities, and that was devised by Google and Microsoft and Stripe and a number of companies. And basically, it's a 4-year integrated bachelor's and master's degree, and half the time the students work in 5 different technology companies, learning as they're doing. So it's teaching in a very different way to make sure that when they graduate, they're adaptable, they're able to solve problems, they understand the tools, they understand industry. I don't want to take up any more time, but I would say if there's any issue I would emphasize, it's education, the capacity of education to produce the talent and to constantly upskill the talent. We have a lot of programs in Ireland upskilling workers for the new world, and a lot of our workers who worked in basic manufacturing have been retrained to work in high-tech industries through a lot of government support for retraining and upskilling, and that's a constant. We do that all the time because we realize that businesses' requirements for talent is constantly changing.
Okay. That is an amazing story. We will come back to it as we go through the conversation, but let me comment already that for us here in Cyprus, it's very obvious that Cyprus and Ireland have very many similarities. We are in the EU. You're on the west side, we're on the east side. You have a couple of decades of advanced experience in becoming and developing and pivoting your economy into a more tech-enabled economy and a different economic model. And the fact that you worked with investors that primarily came from the US and you attended to those investors. And we need to work with investors also from the US, but also from other parts that are more relevant in our region and will come to the investment mindset, means that we can share a lot of those learnings with you. And I keep from your first positioning the need for great collaboration between all the key players in a country. That includes public policy and the government, but also the private sector, academia, and an emphasis in the upskilling of the entire country and the attraction of talent into the economy. These are issues that we discuss right now as Cyprus, and I will come back to get more of your experience as to how you developed it and how do you see that developing beyond. So Constantino, as a person that you were also at the heart of things pretty much at the beginning of a developing of a new strategy, and you develop the strategies of attracting investments, of attracting talent, of the infrastructure that laid the foundation for what we're seeing today. What can you share from your story of how, from perhaps a perspective of public policy, we have experienced so far, and how do you see this progressing beyond?
Yeah, let's take the public policy perspective, and let's take Cyprus. After the invasion in 1974, Cyprus lost about 40% of its resources. Trying to become an international business center was a conscious decision at the time. And that's why we, as Ireland and other countries, we had at the time had a very low corporate tax, 4.25% if you remember. And we were amongst the so-called international offshore financial sectors, which worked, but also created distortions. There were many registered companies in Cyprus. There was some inflow of FDI, but there was also a lot of outflow of FDI because of the round trip. What we really lacked in Cyprus was the actual economic activity in the island. We had the legal system there. We had the tax system almost there, but we did not have a real activity. We did not have people living in Cyprus, spending in Cyprus, real activity happening in Cyprus. And for me, this is an integral part of sustainable development, of viable growth. So it was a conscious effort for us. Also, having faced the experience of the crisis in 2013, that we had to diversify the model, the growth model. We knew we could never become an industrial country. We knew that we could never have a huge manufacturing sector, but we had to have a healthy business taking place in Cyprus. And that's why I designed this program. That combines the comparative advantages of Cyprus, like the location, the expertise, the good professional services, the low tax system, with an incentive scheme in a holistic way in order to attract businesses in Cyprus to work here, to live here, to spend here, to have an impact to the whole society. And wrapping up my first intervention, you did mention education. The previous model that we had adopted in Cyprus, the offshore financial sector, had created actually a gap in the labor market, because there was so much demand for lawyers and accountants like yourself. Then when we were faced with the dilemma of trying to change our model, we saw that there was a lack of talent, engineers, IT, in the IT sector. So that by attracting this talent now in Cyprus and by giving incentives, we are also actually, what we are doing is breeding the ecosystem for bringing up our own talent, with connections with the education system, with the universities. So you are changing also the profile of the direction of the new generation. And for me, this is extremely important when you have a long-term vision about where the country is going, and when you don't see the programs in an opportunistic way, just to grasp the opportunity of the moment, but when you have a vision. And I think that this vision, you can see it today. Also with the distortions, because it took me about 2 hours to get here from Nicosia, but we have to solve the traffic problem. We have to solve the housing problem, and not just say, as some people are saying, that, you know, I mean, you're having a housing issue right now, or a traffic problem, so let's put a halt to the growth of the international business sector in Cyprus.
Infrastructure, including road system, is a big issue for sure. But also your point about accountants. Mary told us earlier that one of the critical success factors is that we should continue reinvent ourselves, like as a country, as professionals.
Including the accountants.
Including the accountants. So here we are reinventing ourselves and not limiting the growth of the economy, but enabling it, right? So, Konstantin, right? So I guess you're working with Nikolai? Yes. Okay, so please introduce yourself also for the panel.
Yeah, my name is Konstantin. I'm a senior investment director at Super Capital. And we're a private equity firm backed by European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and Dutch Entrepreneurial Development Bank. Yeah, active here for like 3 or 4 years already.
Okay, great. So I think as an introductory positioning, what we are all very, very eager to fully grasp is, are you interested in Cyprus because of tax? Are you interested in Cyprus in an opportunistic way to come in quickly and leave? Or do you see in Cyprus something bigger, greater as an investor? So what attracts you? What got you here? What attracts you to continue investing in Cyprus or through Cyprus?
Yeah, I think that Cyprus is an excellent example of like free market economy when due to the effort of my colleagues here, basically by government, by building certain conditions, the talent will find its way here from all over the world, globally right now, especially due to talent being very, very flexible in terms of relocation, etc. Of course, for us as an investor, key attraction is the IT community, which is being built here. And what we notice particularly that the build-up of this community at an inflection point right now, because it draws talent, this talent which is already here draws talent from all over the world. And we see some amazing entrepreneurs who are based in Switzerland, in UK, in US, and they're getting back here because that's where they can find the proper team, proper talent, and establish some great startups here. So the talent which is already residing here draws talent from all over the world, and not only in some basic IT industries, but we see lots of talent coming in deep tech. So Cyprus can actually become not only an IT hub, but a great R&D center focused on some deep tech technologies, and we see a big opportunity here. So for us, of course, the first attraction is IT talent, but of course, the government support, both in terms of financial incentives and immigration rules, is a great addition to that. And of course the country itself, and amazing people here who support and embrace the IT community and help us being successful here. That's of course a very significant factor for us, yeah.
I think that is eye-opening for all of us, and very much part of how we should all together be designing public policies, but also entrepreneurial investments, whether you're an accountant or you're a professional services or organization or any entrepreneur in Cyprus, is to really grasp that idea about what is it that we offer to the world as Cyprus. Why would somebody, given other choices, choose to invest some of their portfolio of investments in Cyprus, or set up business in Cyprus, or set up part of the business in Cyprus? And I think your starting position, which I think is fundamental to the conversation that we will continue having, is that what is attractive is the ability of Cyprus to provide talent on the ground, but also an ecosystem. Now, some years back when I was in Israel talking about the startup nation and their own experience, and I was so eager to understand, so what started it? What made it happen? What can we copy? They kept saying, we're not really doing anything, it's self-fueling. Because the ecosystem is active, so it attracts venture capitalists, it attracts investors, it attracts research and development, it attracts young talent to set up companies, it creates a culture, so the whole thing grows on itself. It's a self-fueling system. And I remember thinking, okay, I get it, it's great to get to that position, but how do you get to that position? And you said we're at a pivotal inflection point.
Yeah, I think that's, in terms of IT talent, that's true. So the teams which are based here, the entrepreneurs which are based here are drawing talent from all over the world, and founders are coming here because they can find talent here. But of course, two things which needs to be enhanced from my perspective is financial support, which Israel provided for the startups, and business expertise. so that entrepreneurs who start business here have access to larger markets, like Israel has access to US primarily, and lots of influence of US entrepreneurs on Israeli and startup ecosystem. So we, I think, need to find a way how to provide both financial and business support for those startups which are being built here.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to that point. So Mary, you've been in Cyprus today, and you've been talking to a lot of people. The story for the future of Cyprus, some people are using an expression that resonates with me, is that part of the vision is that it's Singapore meets Ireland in Cyprus. So it's Singapore as a success story of a small country, and then Ireland in the EU doing what you have done. So whatever we do, the Ireland example will be a beacon for us. From all the experience that you've had in your journey before and hearing where we are now in our inflection point, are you crystallizing some clear suggestions for all of us, whether it's public policy or private sector or academia, that we should focus on? What are you sensing that we need right now?
Well, the things I've picked up that I think are urgent was the issue around immigration. I think you have 100,000 people here, and although they have visas to work here, they can't freely move in and out because of the restrictive nature of the visa. So I think the immigration naturalization issue, I think, is urgent. Secondly, I pick up that education is as connected in with industry as it should be, because it's a vital resource for the future supply of labour, not just labour, indigenous labour, but the upskilling and training and adapting programmes to meet the needs of companies. Like Ireland, Cyprus is so well located. When I was buying my first house, my father said, location, location, get the best location you can afford. We are both well located. We're on one side of Europe with access to the market. That's why so many American companies want to be in Ireland, to have access to the big European market. And equally, you're on the other side of Europe with access not just to the other side of Europe, but also to access to the Middle East, to Israel, to Asia. You know, you're very well positioned. So I think that access issue is so important. And lastly, companies will only come if they get a good return on investment. And that means you have to watch your business costs, your regulation. You have to be as flexible as possible. I'd hate to create the impression that we don't have problems in Ireland. Like you, we have a housing problem. Housing in the Greater Dublin area is very expensive, and about 2/3 of our new investments in the last year have gone to locations outside Dublin where housing is much more affordable, and that's actually been good for regional development. But it is an issue. We have a traffic issue, that's for sure. One of the great things about COVID was we had no traffic problems, but my God, do we have them now. And indeed our airport in Dublin is so busy that sometimes you're sitting on the plane, as I was on Monday morning, for an hour before it took off, because it's just so busy. The last thing I'd say is access. Ireland has 6 flights a day through the Middle East, through Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and also through Turkey, to destinations all over the world. So business people travel for business more than ever, actually, notwithstanding modern technology, and they need easy access to airports and flights to destinations where their main customers are. So that's also an important element, I think, and has been transformed in Ireland. We used to have very little access, and now we have huge access to so many places in the world, which is terrific. Not as good an access to Cyprus as I would like. It takes about 6 hours to get here, between going through London or going, as I am tonight, going back through Frankfurt. But other than Cyprus, I think we've pretty good access to all the main markets in Europe and beyond. And that's been a very important element for the attractiveness of Ireland as a destination for inward investment, and indeed the growth of our companies. And lastly, I think I'll say, companies can't operate in a bubble. They have to be connected into government, to academia, to the wider society, and they have to try and support, through their supply chain, the indigenous sector. I think that's really important for a company to bed itself in to the society of which it's a part, and not to just be there running the business almost in isolation from the society and the community of which you're a part. I personally believe that that's extremely important, and I think employees want to see that as well.
Crystal clear. Another question, if I may, before I go to Konstantinos. we can fall into the trap of talking about tech hub and the industry in isolation from the rest of the economy. And there is an issue about how a tech hub contributes more horizontally in the wider economy, in the wider society. So two areas that for us are areas that we would like to see more contribution in our tech hub is that it will also support the digitalization of government, or the digitalization, as you attract more talent and more IT capability, as you align with AI developments, that tech enablement should actually find itself in accelerating digitalization of government and the entire economy. And the other big challenge is, how do you ensure that the value created is shared by society at large, perhaps through access, through education, but the point here is that society doesn't resent seeing some people making money or some people having opportunities, but it's not widely distributed. Those two issues, the social aspect, but also the horizontal ability to use it as an accelerator, is it something that you have considered?
Yes, absolutely, and that's why I say the companies can't operate in a bubble. Obviously, they directly pay tax and give high-quality employment. Many of the companies sponsor young people to go to university. Many of them are involved in devising school programs. We teach computer programming and coding at second-level education. Companies sponsor disadvantaged children from poorer schools to go on to third-level education. They're very involved in community initiatives. We've full employment virtually in Ireland. I think unemployment is around 2%. So the companies that have come to Ireland, in the main, not all of them, but many of them, I'd say 95% of them, have very good community relations, and their staff would be involved in many community and charitable initiatives, particularly around the local community. And they would fund many activities, whether it's sporting organisations or community events. So they adopt a very inclusive approach. They don't want to be seen as the company that came from America that's all American and not Irish. They very much adopt the local face when they come, and most of their, if not all of their management tend to be from the country as well, and that's been a big change. 30 years ago, when I used to go as a young politician to address a foreign direct investor in my constituency, the management were virtually all American. Today they're all Irish, because we've grown that entrepreneurship. So it's had huge spin-off effects in terms of the impact on society, which I think has been really, really beneficial.
Okay. That's extremely useful. So Costantino, I think my follow-on question for you is this: what is your personal vision of how do we ensure, through public policy, but also through collaboration and through making sure that there is responsible behavior by all stakeholders in the system, we drive social upskilling, we drive social wealth, we avoid the pitfalls and problems of the past?
So I would say that in Cyprus you have the same phenomena like in Ireland. The companies based here have been incorporated into the social network. They are contributing. They have also very good CSR policies. When people are living here and they are spending here and they love the place and that's why they're going to stay here, I think that it goes without saying that they will become sooner or later an integral part of the society. And this is the vision, actually. And facing the problems forward, I would say that Cyprus can easily accommodate in the existing residential areas, the residential zones, about 5 million people. And I'm telling you that as an ex-Minister of Internal Affairs. We need a new public policy for housing to give incentives, but also to penalize the idle residential land. That way, we will face the housing problem with large-scale residential developments, not just for the third country nationals that are coming to Cyprus, and it's their number one problem now, because we have addressed the labor market issues. We had addressed the tax issues. We diverted for giving tax incentives to the companies, to giving incentives to the workers, to the employees. We have addressed many issues, and now we have to face the facts on the ground. And the facts on the ground is the housing issue, the traffic, that will make the life easier, both of the people choosing Cyprus to become their home, but also for Cypriots as well. So it's a two-way thing. I believe that the companies based here want to incorporate and are incorporating, but we also, on behalf of the public policy stand, we have to incorporate ourselves into the new realities and face the real issues that they have to be solved. And you did talk about Ireland, about having a traffic and expensive housing, yes. But Cyprus has the less density of population in urban areas than any other country in Europe. If I'm not mistaken, in Ireland, there are about 4 or 5, in Dublin at least, 4 or 5,000 people per square meter in residential areas, in a square kilometer, while in Cyprus is less than 1. So you can see the potential. And this will also address the traffic issue. I never heard anybody, even the government officials, saying that the traffic issue is indeed an urban planning issue. It's not about creating more roads, it's not just about public transport. It's about building friendly cities, and friendly cities have to be densely populated in order to have a good living environment that will offer all facilities, and this will also bring down the prices. So from public's perspective, I would consider that the next challenges are these.
Okay, great. I will continue with my questions, but just giving a warning, an advance sort of invitation for anybody who actually wants to ask a question. I will come to you and look at hands so we can get some questions from you before we round up. But Constantino, another quick point, if you could comment, and then we close this thinking with Constantine and we take some questions. So, Constantino, the issue of immigration that was mentioned by Mary, and I will put sort of the elephant in the room sort of in front of you for commenting. We've heard that the business case for Cyprus to materialize its vision is to be a magnet for talent. We need to import talent, high quality, highly sort of educated, good talent into the country. At the same time, there are the tensions everywhere, including in Cyprus, about how we deal with inclusion issues, or how we deal with the problems of that we call under-immigration. How do you think we balance the need of the economy to import talent at very big volumes? Some people are talking about, the fact that you said 5 million housing, is, one could say we should attract another 1 million people working in Cyprus.
I think we should.
So how do we address the immigration worries of society?
I personally have no worries about legal migration. I'm terrified about illegal migration. When I attract talents and people who want to come to Cyprus and they have jobs and they will contribute, I don't care. Cyprus is a cosmopolitan place. It always was. They will get integrated into the society very easily. Let the market work. Okay. What scares me is illegal migration.
Of course. Okay.
It's not those who are contributing to the social securities. Is those who are taking advantage of the social securities and are eating from it. So for me, there is no issue. Yeah. And actually, the countries that you attract talents, they're not countries with huge. If you want me to address the elephant in the room, we don't have too many differences in the way we are brought up. The civilizations that we lived are similar. There are no conflicts in that respect. So I'm not worried at all about that prospect.
Okay, perfect. So, Konstantin, where do we take this forward? What what do you expect, key priorities that we should address to really accelerate Cyprus in this direction?
Yeah, we have many talks with the founders, as you can imagine, and they all look like for three things when they're thinking about relocation to a particular country. First is teammates and the talent, as I mentioned, they already have it here. Then financial support, and then business support. And in terms of financial support, different forms of governmental grants, which can actually match, for instance, private investments into startups. That might be a very great opportunity, especially for early stage startups, to receive their first financing. But second is business support, and here I mean building up accelerators and incubators which can actually help founders find their product market fit, go to market fit, and do like first initial raise of capital. And here I think that this can be solved by close integration of Cyprus VC ecosystem with global VC ecosystems, particularly with London, which is #1 European VC ecosystem, and of course US, and bringing these investors here, bringing in business advisors, setting up accelerators, incubators, which can be affiliated with largest incubators and accelerators in the world, may actually allow to provide these kind of services as well, financial and business services for early stage startups particularly. And another thing, we talked about human capital. I think that there is a great reserve of human capital here in Cyprus as well, and stimulation of STEM education, of tech education in schools and universities, that also a big boost for the whole IT ecosystem, because we think of this as a global system. Those people who come here, but those people who are already here, Cypriots who would want to be engaged in this IT community. And from Super Capital perspective, we're already doing some such type of initiatives with the programming school here, which offers programming teaching for children at school. So, and we think it's just the beginning. We think that much more opportunities are present here.
Brilliant. So a final question to you. Some people are thinking, elephants in the room, sustainability. How can we keep the people who find Cyprus? But I think, just talking about sustainability is putting the bar very low. I don't like the question, what will it take for you to stay? I think for me the question is, what will it take for you to increase your presence, to increase your investment, to actually see a much bigger personal vision for this place? How unrealistic is that? What is your own words that will go into what should we be dreaming of about this space in Cyprus in terms of scale and sustainability in terms of long-term growth?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look like 5 years ahead, I think the future will very much depend on those startups which are just starting business right now. In 3, 4, 5 years, they should be scale-ups, they should be doing business globally already. So we need to build an environment which could actually help the startups start here and stay here until doing business globally. And if we provide like both financial support at this first initial stage, which is the hardest, and then business support in terms of how to access largest markets like Europe and US, then I think those companies will stay and be successful here, and in 5 years they will grow into some larger tech businesses like unicorns growing in like Silicon Valley or in London.
And continue being that self-fueling system.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Cool. Right. There is a question there, just to see if there is another question. Okay, let's take those two questions at the same time, please. I'm conscious that we will need to round it up, so I'll give you the chance to comment on the two questions and some final comments, and we round up.
Theo Panagiotou, Rector of the University of Limassol. The title of this talk is about strategies for economic resilience, and all our speakers touched on those. Mary talked about how this foreign investment is integrated into society and the economy. Konstantinos talked about his strategy since he joined the government during the economic crisis to convert an economy which was an offshore economy into one that was attracting direct foreign investment, right? FDI. The question, though, and it succeeded. This succeeded, but we know that even which is more sustainable, of course, than the offshore. But we know even Ireland, which had attracted a long time ago foreign direct investment from the States and elsewhere, passed through a crisis at some point, but was able quickly to get out of it and so on. So it had further, I believe, further factors of resilience. It was kind of, somehow they managed, I don't know what, how they did it, but yes, we were integrated with the rest of the economy, but also they had certain other factors of resilience. I'm wondering, what other factors of resilience, I'm asking both also the minister, what other factors of resilience can be introduced in terms of macroeconomic policy or in terms of other policies, public policies, to make it more resilient if tomorrow there is because if you have a lot of foreign investment, you are also exposed to risks, right? You are an open economy. Something happens elsewhere, is easily transferred at home. And Konstantin can tell us if they are concerned about that sometime, as Cyprus becomes more and more and more open, whether this increases also the risk they might be facing, and what kinds of policies they might be looking towards to somehow provide more economic resilience in the place where they put their investments. Thank you.
Hello, I am a computer science student at University of Cyprus, and you told us a little bit ago that there is a lack of talent in technology sector of Cypriots. So we need to bring more people that are more talented in the technology sector. However, in Cyprus, we have this saying that says that you are too much for Cyprus. It's a politica in Kipro, which means that you can go to other countries and find better opportunities. So what stops me from going to the European Union, a European Union country, to find more opportunities if I'm talented, instead of being in Cyprus and provide my talent in Cyprus?
Okay, great question. We will need to round up the panel. So we have, you can make your final comments. I'll give you the chance to make your final positioning, drawing also from the questions. There is a question on factors of resilience more generally, and I love the question about when we talk about attracting talent, it also means maintaining our Cypriot talent, and the same way we want outside the country for people to discover Cyprus, to give confidence in our homegrown talent, to growing confidence in investing their future in the country. So it goes together. So, Mary.
Resilience. The first thing I'd say is public policy in terms of the economy has to be sound. Watching public expenditure, et cetera, et cetera. Diversification is very important. Not all your eggs in one basket. Companies, if they're obviously return on investment is why they're there. For as long as they get a good return on investment of good productivity levels, very, very few of them ever leave. We've had experience of people leaving in the past, but that was activity that was no longer viable. Like I think I mentioned yesterday, we had a company making T-shirts in the northwest of the country. They had 3,000 employees for about 20 years, but clearly it wasn't competitive, and they went to Morocco. So it's having the value added. I mean, Ireland and Cyprus are suitable for the weightless economy. We're not suitable for heavy goods or making cars or whatever, assembling cars. We're island economies and we have small internal markets. So it's making sure that the companies are getting a good return on investment, that the government is responding to the demands of skills, et cetera, and that will keep them bedded down for as long as they're successful in the country in which they're in. The question on why should you stay in Cyprus? Well, I think many of us are always tempted to stay in our home country for family and friend reasons if the opportunity is as good, or maybe if it's not quite as good as elsewhere. I think there's a global demand for computer scientists. And I think salaries, whether they're in Cyprus or in Ireland, are going to converge very closely. That is a fact, because it's a global market and people will go where they get the best opportunity. But there's also the opportunity for self-employment and entrepreneurship. And in Ireland we have a lot of government programmes. You mentioned government support, government take equity in startups. And in addition to that, they also provide mentorship with experienced business people going into small startup companies and helping them. And one company said to me recently that that was as beneficial as the financing, what they learned from experienced people. And some of them are people working in FDI companies who come and help indigenous companies in the early stages. Because Irish companies, like companies in Cyprus, have to internationalise very early because our internal markets are so small. You have to, go outside your country, and startup companies often need a lot of mentorship and help in being able to do that, and indeed introductions. And we have a state agency that helps to organise trade missions and open doors for our indigenous sector in foreign markets, and that certainly is very beneficial. So I would say to you, stay in Cyprus. They need your talents. Maybe create your own opportunity, and our friend here might help you with some equity. But you should be able to get a good opportunity in Cyprus when you finish your education, I think. If not, come to Ireland.
Resilience. Two pillars of resilience: micro and macro. At micro level, new growth model. And this is not the new growth model. It's a small part of the new growth model. Diversified tourism, green energy, new sectors of the economy, irrigation, increase of shipping, try to diversify as much as possible. And this is what we are doing consciously in the past years. Macro, protect fiscal discipline. You did talk about the crisis in 2013. Had we not doubled public debt unnecessarily between 2008 and 2011, there would have been no haircut of deposits. The government could have stepped in with a different policy. And I'm concerned because after all we have been through, after we've been watching all the uncertainties globally, fiscal discipline is not taken seriously enough. And you did talk about the resilience of Ireland. We are both victims, in a way, of our own success, because Ireland and Cyprus were attracting a lot of money from FDI due to the low taxation. It was not maybe diverted into the economy, but it was deposited into the banking sector for a long time. This led to fiscal credit expansion, a huge credit expansion, and the lack of supervision from the banking sector led to the crisis of the banking sector in both countries. At the same time, when the interest rates in both countries fell because of the EU, because of the common monetary policy of the EU, and that I attribute that to the lack of proper supervision and wrong policies of the European Union that contributed to the crisis in Ireland and Cyprus. Now, one feature of resilience is the fact that the ECB, the monetary policy, the banking supervision, it's much stricter compared to the 2008. That's it.
I love your passion, but we need to round up indeed. So, Konstantin, final word.
Yeah, regarding the resilience, well, one thing, of course, is keeping the cost of living here as moderate as possible. So keeping up housing infrastructure and like education, technology infrastructure, so that basically, yeah, if we can keep the affordable level, that's good. but how to mitigate the rising costs, and we can tap the talent which is based in Europe. And you mentioned that many Cypriot companies do have their technology talent spread all over the world, but primarily in Eastern Europe. And I think this connection is a great connection which Cyprus has, and which can be enhanced, because this a few 100,000 IT engineers which are based there, great talent which can be actually, used by these Cypriot companies to grow. And answering the question of my colleague who is now studying computer science, well, I think that it's a very important question, and I think the IT community in Cyprus needs to find its specialization, particular things where it excels on the global level. And when a person who is graduating from the university and wants to go into this specialization understands that that's the best place in the world to be in, like AI, like deep tech, but we need to basically crystallize this. Like Switzerland became famous for certain things, and other countries, relatively small countries, became famous for their talent in particular specialization. So IT community here needs to find a specialization and provide the best community, the best talent here for you to start a business, find a team, receive business support, etc.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So my final conclusion is that we've been demonstrating how experiences from other countries and benchmarks from other countries are definitely the way forward, and learning together or even working together as economies to accelerate. Public policy that understands the growth potential but also proactively prepares the absorption of the shocks that come with growth is critical. And understanding what truly attracts the various players and the money and the investment that will come into Cyprus, and not have it as a one-sided policy development, but understand the fundamentals and enable the fundamentals that go to basically who we are as an identity as a country. The vision of being one of the best places for people to live is something that people from outside say, we want to live in Cyprus. To work, they say, I want to be able to work from Cyprus. And to do business come issues of a government that is enabling and friendly with visas and everything else, an economic system that is there to support it, and that the return on investment can be found. So all of us are very much a wider stakeholder group with a shared vision, a shared understanding of a very big potential that right now, whoever describes it in the most positive ways is probably underestimating still the true potential of what we're talking about. So building and working together collaboratively, as is the example of Ireland, is definitely the way forward. And thank you for your collaboration and sharing your insights. Thank you for your attention.